Good morning, this is Mark at Top Local. We're here with Bernie Pawlik, Pawlik Automotive in Vancouver, the world famous Bernie Pawlik. They're 18-time winners of Best Auto Repair in Vancouver. 18 times, as voted by their customer. How you doing, Bernie?
Doing very well.
So we're going to talk about we have a weird glitch. I'm going to freeze the camera to you. We're going to talk about a 2006 VW Jetta, a TDI. This is a unique kind of version of this vehicle that was only available in 2006, I think. Is that right?
No, there was a couple other years, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the exact, but not just 2006. There was like 2 or 3 years in around that.
So what was happening with this VW diesel?
Well, the vehicle came to our shop. It was running rough, had a lot of noises coming from the engine, and it was pretty apparent within a short drive there's something pretty serious going on. It had a slight misfire, but there was just, diesels are always noisy, but there was this excessive noise that you could tell wasn't right with the diesel. So we did some diagnostics on it, and what we found was that the camshaft was worn very badly, camshaft and lifters.
So what kind of diagnosis did you have to do to kind of get to that point?
Well, the initial diagnostic was with a scan tool, extracting codes. And off the top of my head, I can't remember all the exact codes we had. I know there was one for glow plug, which isn't relevant, but and not relevant to the issue. But there was at least 1 or 2 misfire codes, which indicate there's a problem with the cylinders. After that, with that level of noise, it's really a matter of listening where is the noise most present, and then taking things apart. So we pulled the valve cover off, and that's where we discovered the camshaft and lifters were extremely badly worn.
Okay, so I've had one of these 2006 TDI Jettas that was pretty reliable. What could cause this kind of severe wear on the cam and lifters?
Well, there's a lot of let's say controversy, but a lot of opinion on it is people using the wrong oil is one of them. This engine is kind of unique. It uses the fuel injection system in this engine uses an actual injector that's driven from the camshaft, and the high pressure fuel is actually delivered into each injector from the camshaft. So there's an extreme amount of pressure on the camshaft that isn't present in a lot of other engines. So using the right oil, I think it's VW spec 505.01 is the prescribed oil. It's usually a 540. I think it's a 530 as well. But anyways, you need to make sure you use that spec of oil. Now, even with that, if you go too long between oil changes, I mean, that always causes excessive wear. And some people have even said that it's just the design of the engine is just vulnerable and weak anyways. So this vehicle did have over 200,000 kilometers on it, so that's a pretty fair amount of time, in all fairness. But it is a pretty common problem having these camshafts wear. So critical to use the right oil, of course, and change your oil at the right interval.
So I know my TDI had over 200,000 kilometers before I put it into it in 2010. Do you see this issue often with these engines?
We actually haven't seen it that often in our shop. And actually, it seems like a lot of the TDIs we work on seem to be a generation earlier than this or a lot newer than this. So we haven't seen a lot of this, but I'm certain that we're going to see a lot more of it because there are a lot of these engines around, a lot of these cars, and they're still good value and worth keeping. So, it's out there. It happens a lot, and sometimes there's a first for everything. So this is one of our first ones with a worn-out cam, but it's out there, and something to be cautious of if you're buying a used Volkswagen to make sure it's running properly and it's in good shape and well maintained.
So an expensive repair?
It is, yeah. It's an expensive repair, and it's a lot of labor. This one needed a timing belt to be replaced at the same time too. And I mean, it looked like the timing belt was very old and probably hadn't been done. So my guess, the owner of this vehicle had bought the vehicle recently, and it probably hadn't been very well maintained, would be my guess. So again, the key, as I said, if you're going to buy a used one, if you can buy it from someone who's got all the oil change records and they're all done, within say 10,000 kilometers, they've all used the right oil. That would be a pretty important thing to look for. Why don't we share it? Why don't we have a look at a few photos right now? Start with our car. There's the 06 nice red TDI Jetta, and we'll go right to the camshaft. So this is the camshaft that we pulled out of the engine. Now, you're not used to looking at a camshaft, it's kind of a, this item I'm pointing at here, this is a cam lobe for one of the engine valves, and this lobe here, which is unique to this engine, drives the fuel injection pump. So you have it's an 8-valve engine, so there's a rocker, a cam lobe for each intake and exhaust valve, so there's 4 per cylinder. And if you look, this is a cam lobe that's in pretty good shape. It's got a nice pointed end to it. But if you look at this one here, you can see the end is not quite so pointy. And some of the cam lobes are not pointing at us, so you don't get a good view. But you can see this one here is definitely rounded off. This is one of the really badly worn ones. This one it's got wear, but it's still in fairly decent shape. There's also a big gouge here where the fuel injection rocker rides, and all of these had that as well. So a lot of wear in these areas. We're going to do a couple more close-ups of the cam. So this is again a close-up. This is that right cam lobe that I pointed to. You can see it's got a pretty decent point on it. That's an example of a cam lobe that's in pretty good shape. This is a cam lobe that's pretty badly worn. You can see that sort of roundness and discoloration there. So that one's again not very good. And so what happens is, actually I'll show you one more thing. So this is the lifter. So this is what the camshaft pushes against to push the valve. Now it's a little hard to see in this photograph because of the angle, but and unfortunately I took it on my steel workbench, so it doesn't stand out so much. But this lifter, although it's got a lot of little metal scratches on it, is actually still pretty flat. But it's still it's still worn. But this one here is severely worn. It's actually dish shaped, and it's dished so bad there's actually a hole right in the middle, where it's actually worn the metal right to the middle. So the difference between this height and that is probably 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch. That's how much wear has taken place on this particular lifter, and there's several of them like that. So that explains all the noise. That basically explains why the engine had the clacking noise, because there's so much play between the cam and the valve that it's clacking and making a bunch of noise. Plus, it's not opening the valve properly, so the compression is lower. It's not breathing enough air and exhausting properly. So that caused all the performance issues with the engine.
So, like always, using the right oil is essential.
Yeah, it really comes down to correct oil, change it regularly. I mean, you can't prevent everything. Even really good maintenance doesn't prevent your car from having problems like this, which can happen eventually. But it's a very good way to, it's like eating healthy, and exercising is not necessarily going to guarantee you a long life, but it will generally happen, as opposed to being, smoking and drinking and, not exercising and lying on the couch all day.
So there are a lot of generations of TDI engines. Is this one reliable in your experience?
Seems to be pretty good. I mean, I said we don't seem to work on a lot of these for some reason, maybe because it's not the most common years, but it's besides this issue, it's been a pretty reliable engine. We haven't run into a lot of problems with it. So I don't know that I'd necessarily not buy one of these as opposed to something newer, but the common rail design is a little simpler. There's a little more complexity to this engine because of that pump-driven or camshaft-driven injector. So I'd say, if you can skip this generation, go with something newer, you're probably getting something more reliable.
So there you go. If you're looking for service on your TDI Jetta in Vancouver, the guys to see are Pawlik Automotive. You can reach them at 604-327-7112. Book ahead because they're busy. You must book ahead, or check out their website, pawlikautomotive.com, or our YouTube channel at Pawlik Automotive Repair. Thanks, Bernie.
Thanks, Mark.